Hello, career thought leaders. It's good to see you today. And we are talking about trends in personal branding and some tips and things that you can use for your clients because we've been talking about how noisy the market is. And I know that that challenge is growing. We just had that downward revision in the jobs numbers, right? So here's the thing that most people get wrong about personal branding. They see personal branding as a tagline, maybe even a value proposition statement, but they're looking at the end result of the personal branding process, not the two most important things, which is the work that goes on underneath before you can get to that point, and the efforts, the consistent efforts that go into the branding, right? The verb of the word. So creating a great profile, creating a great tagline, any of those things doesn't get us where we need to go in terms of one, the connection to the market need, and two, the visibility so that people know we are that solution. So those are the pieces that people are missing. So when we see there's all these applicants for these jobs, or it's getting more even challenging to get a promotion, or maybe we're working with clients that want to make a transition, the power of this process is really helping people understand the clarity of their brand. And maybe use that word in quotes because it's really that clarity of who are you? What do you want to be known for? And who needs to know you? Those are big, hard questions that most people don't take the time to figure out. So then they're out here, building a profile or applying to jobs or whatever it might be, and they're changing who they are every 10 seconds, or they're not clear on who they are or why the employer will care. And so it's a lot of wasted effort. So this is one of those times when slowing down can actually help us speed up. How can we help clients do that? Now, the other part I love about personal branding is when you do get that clarity in who you are and the value that you bring, it also helps you be motivated and just be clearer about who you are and what the value is that you bring. It brings that confidence and all of those things that people need when they're in transition or when they're feeling less valued. And all of those transitions just take it out of us, right? I think even when we're in business and maybe our business is down, the same thing happens. So to get rerouted in who you are, the value that you bring, the problems you want to solve, and then the ways that who you are adds value to your audience. It's huge. It's so powerful, and it kind of sounds simple, but it really isn't. And so one of the things I want to know as we start today, and we'll see if I can get this to work here, we've started a new way of getting information, which I love, new little quiz program that we've been including in our newsletters as well. And one of the things that it allows us to do is get your thoughts on what's going on with you. So where do your clients struggle with the personal branding process? And this will give you a chance to pull up a little quiz. I'm going to try to drop the link in the chat as well. Let's see if I can manage that. All right, so let me go LinkedIn, see if I can do it there. And then we can also do it in some of the other places. The other places it shows up a little easier in the comments. Oh, hi, Ruth. Thanks for joining us. So there's the link where you can fill out this little quiz, and then we're going to kind of come back to it and we'll answer some of your questions around this as well. When we're doing this work, there's a lot of pieces. And it sounds simple, but it's really not. And again, people tend to focus more on the outputs, the resume, those types of things than they do on the other aspects of it. Oh, I think I was able to drop it in LinkedIn as well. Okay. All right. So where do your clients struggle the most in the personal branding process? And I'll be able to see your responses here, and we can look at those here in a little bit. and give you some thoughts. So, watching myself on LinkedIn is not good. What do we need to help people? And here are some of the things that I found as I was doing some research. We do some research for our newsletter every week. And one of the things that we know is the importance of thought leadership. This is that active part of branding, right? It's an ing, it's a verb. We're going to do something with it. It's the visibility building, but that requires the clarity underneath. So 97% of companies, this was in an entrepreneur article that we shared in our newsletter. If you're not getting our newsletter, drop me a note. I'll drop you the link. 97% of companies say thought leadership has impacted their revenue and retention. So this personal branding, it's not just for job seekers, it's not just for business owners, it's also for our leaders, our clients who are leaders in an organization, because that, companies are trying to do their employer branding, their business branding, and they know research shows that it's better done through individuals than from a company page. And so they say, hey, leaders, please go out there and start creating some thought leadership around these ideas. Here's some articles, here are some things in the industry that you can use, but go out there and start creating some thought leadership. Now, here's a challenge for our leaders is that if they're just regurgitating the corporate line, they're really not going to achieve any of the goals. They're not going to get any engagement because it's obvious when you're just regurgitating the corporate line. They're not going to build their own brand, and they're not going to get any results for the company. So the company may be putting out thought leadership, great opportunity for our individuals to put out thought leadership, but what spin are they going to put on it to make it meet all of those goals, especially the personal goals, right? So got all this content that a company might be creating, got AIs creating content. The opportunity to stand out really lies way back in the beginning of understanding what do you want to be known for and who needs to know you. And those questions, we do them in our personal branding program at the very beginning. We always say, what do you want to be known for? What's your one word? And it is an activity that even coaches who've been struggling or who've been coaching for a long time, they struggle with it because it is a challenge to think, okay, what is that one word that I want to be known for? Is it inspiration? Is it strategic? Is it, trends? Is it compassion, resourcefulness, whatever it might be? What is that word that you want to be known for? And then you can build around it. And when I think about like clients that I've had who've been really clear on this piece, and typically we will get down to 3 to 5 words. They build their content strategy, but it's nice if there's this overarching theme, even to those 3 to 5 words. So in the Career Thought Leaders umbrella, for instance, we talk about personal branding, we talk about resume writing, career coaching, business development, and then career industry trends, workforce, future of work kind of stuff. And when I look at the market, I think, okay, a lot of other organizations are talking about similar topics, right? So what's our spin on it? Our spin on it is always that future of work, data focused picture, right? Going to bring data. We're going to do the research. We're going to gather that information for you. And when we talk about resumes or branding or coaching, it's always going to be in that lens of what's the latest data on this, what's the foundational data on it, because it's not about trend chasing, right? It's about having that lens. So if I've got a job seeker, and let's say this was one of my clients who was in the tech space, but had been the person driving internal technical innovation. So how can we use technology inside to improve our distribution, to improve our innovation, to improve, customer delivery, those types of things. And so how do I help them say, okay, these are the things that come up over and over and over again. And this is where all the pieces fit together, is that if I'm talking to a person about their signature stories, what are those things that are your top accomplishments? And I start to get those stories, then the through line comes in terms of what is it that they want to be known for. It shows up in every story. And that's where we're headed. That's what we want to look for when we're thinking about our clients, right? We're thinking about helping them find that through line. Yes, yeah. They and this can happen to all of us, right? Where we start to say what we think people want to hear, or we talk in the vernacular, the jargon of the industry or the times, and that really doesn't say who you are. What's your take on it? I think this is a TikTok trend right now, right? The POV, your point of view. Well, we've been teaching point of view since 2001 because that's a part of your brand. I think this was a meme that my husband was quoting the other day. Tom Hanks said that in his first movie, the director said, come prepared and have an opinion. And that's the piece of it that a lot of people are afraid to do. They're afraid to have the opinion. They're afraid to sound different. And so you sip in on the hamster wheel of even creating content or working on your resume or SEO optimizing your profile. But when you sound like everyone else, it doesn't matter. You're wasting all of that energy. Because the keywords, yes, they might create that findability, but in today's world, everybody can optimize for the keywords, right? AI does it for you, but then it also makes you sound like everyone else. So if I'm searching through profiles and I've got the same AI created, we call it generic junk, reading everybody's profile, everybody's headline sounds the same. The way to break out of that is to find that point of view, your opinion. What does your experience help you know about that? And how can you tie those 2 points together? And that's really where we want to help our clients go. And so there's a few other things that showed up in our research in terms of the personal branding trends or just recent articles and things. So this idea that it's more about being memorable than impressive. And this came from a recent entrepreneur article that being memorable, which again, what makes someone memorable? What makes a piece, a story, a blog, what makes it memorable? It's typically a story that is engaging, right? It's a story that connects, that is familiar to you, or that engages you in the story. You get there by really understanding your audience and telling stories that they're going to care about. So that is memorable. The other thing that's memorable, connection. So when I take the time to really be connected to you, to do those things. So connection, story, consistency. So showing up over and over and over again with a similar message, with a similar approach, with a similar point of view, that consistency helps us be memorable. And then that point of view and opinion in and of itself. We don't want to be controversial for the sake of being controversial. We don't want to, play on things that are going to be against our brand. But we do want to know this is your point of view. So I was working with a leadership client, and he was talking about, building strong teams, and this corporate blah, 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 blah starts to come, like you can hear the teacher on Peanuts talking, wah, 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 wah. We have to say, okay, but when has it made a difference for you? Let's talk about your favorite boss, your least favorite boss, when you felt like you've been a good leader, when you felt like you've been a bad leader. And then we can pull out from that point of view. What's your philosophy on what makes a good leader? How do you show up and demonstrate that? Give me some examples. When have you not showed up and been like that? And what did you learn from that experience? Those things can build that point of view, can build that memorable story. And that's what we want to do. We want to help people do that. And it is a challenge. It means that we're digging deeper, and it is two-pronged, both their experiences, their stories, as well as their audience and what their audience cares about, and finding where those two things meet. And a lot of people just really take the time to think about who they are. They don't think about their audience. Over and over and over again, I'll see people and they'll say, oh yeah, I don't need to work on my audience. And then we start digging in and they're like, oh man, well, maybe I do, because it's hard to write. It's hard to tell a story. It's hard to figure out where to be visible when you're not really clear on your audience. If someone's struggling with being overwhelmed in terms of what to say or what to remove from their resume or what to put in their profile or where to be on social media, they are not clear enough on their audience. Knowing their audience should help them make those decisions, at least in prioritization of what really matters. So if you weren't on here earlier, I see we have a few new folks that have joined. Thank you. Welcome. We were doing a little poll on where your clients struggle the most, or if you're a job seeker, where you struggle the most with personal branding. And you can pull that up and answer that if you'd like to. So this really understanding our point of view, our opinion, why do we think that? What has happened in our background that helps us think about it that way? So one of the things I've been really excited about this summer is helping more business owners grow their business. And although this comes from kind of a gendered place for me, right? I grew up with a single mom, saw how hard she worked and how much she struggled, have 3 girls raising and going to college. And, is one of those foundational things was that I want to be in control of my own financial destiny. And now I get to help other small business owners do the same thing and realize how much more they can be in their control of their own destiny, even as business owners than we are as employees. So I was talking to someone today, very nervous about jumping into kind of the portfolio career space that the careers industry is. And I get that, right? Having that 9-to-5 steady job feels so stable. But I love watching people build something that's even more stable because it is built on the flexibility and the ownership of their own skills, knowledge, platform, etc. So there's that piece of it that drives me personally to do the work that I do, and that no one else has. Well, maybe some other people have it, right? But that's unique to me, and the way that it shows up and the way that I do that work is unique to me. And that's what we can help our clients figure out. Why do you get into this type of work? Why do you do what you do every day? We've got a session on the 4D stories that I can put in the link in the chat, but it's, why'd you get into this? Why do you show up and do it every day? Those peak examples of when you've had those accomplishments, kind of the hero story that we're used to telling. And then why does someone care? How does it connect to the employer, the value that they need? And those pieces will help you be memorable, to have those stories ready and to share them when they're appropriate in your job search, in your networking, in even your corporate everyday today, so that you are memorable for what you want to be known for. So then once we get that baseline background figured out, what do you want to be known for and who needs to know you? Then we can think about, what is it that you want to put out into the world? And this is one of the options on the poll is, what do people don't have the confidence to go out there and share their story and their thought leadership publicly. And most of the entrepreneurs that I work with in this space are struggling with the same thing, right? Being visible, but being vulnerable. And how do I know what to post every day? And I could give you a listicle of the 10 different things you could post. But when it comes right down to it, that comes from that connection of who am I and who needs to know me. When I know those things, it's much easier to figure out what to post on social media or wherever. It might be internal. even. I mean, we have people who are in our branding space that coach internal people. How are you going to build your internal brand on, the internal chats, the internal boards, the meetings? Those places are all a playground for our internal people who are employed but want to be promoted. They can find those same opportunities to communicate their brand, little drips at a time, consistency throughout, knowing what they want to be known for and just sharing it over and over again. But that thought leadership piece is challenging. So there was an article in Inc. Last month or so that talks about the 3-2-1 structure for creating content. Here's what I'll say. If you are talking about posting on LinkedIn, know your audience. Is your audience there? It doesn't do you any good to spend a lot of effort posting if your audience isn't there. And a lot of people aren't there, right? It is a 47 a minute month activity, which is 10th or 11th in terms of social media channels, because people don't go there on a daily basis unless they're in sales, marketing, careers, recruiting, right? So if I'm trying to build visibility with engineering managers, LinkedIn may not be it. I've got to find, is there a professional association? Is there something where I could build visibility faster with that groups, other types of groups, right? So thinking about where am I going? Then if you are talking about LinkedIn, you really do not need to post more than 3 times a week. In fact, recent algorithm studies have shown that people who post every day may be kind of cutting into their own audience. Now that's fine when you have 100,000, 2 million followers like some of the influencers do. But if you're just starting out and you have 500 followers, posting every day may actually work against you, because LinkedIn says, is this a good post or not? After it shows it to some of your followers, if it doesn't fly, then you get downgraded for the next one. So then if you post again tomorrow and you don't get a lot of reactions, the cascading downwards, right? So post every other day is enough. You do not need to post every day. In fact, once or twice a week is probably fine for an everyday user who is not trying to build a brand or sell something or, be a career coach or whatever on LinkedIn. So you could even spread this out longer. So 3 industry insights. This is reading your probably incoming news about your industry, your professional association, follow some of them on LinkedIn, right? Or wherever they're active. And I don't want you to reshare that post. So there's this feature on LinkedIn where you can reshare. That doesn't do much for your brand, especially if you reshare without comments. But even if you reshare with comments, that brand's post is going to be much more visible than you. So I want you to read the post, have an opinion, have a reaction. You can even get ChatGPT to somewhat help you write your post, but it has to be your opinion, your reaction, and then you post that. You could put the link to the other post in your post or the link to the article in your post, but don't let the preview pop up. X out that preview so that it's just your post. And then, yes, there's a link at the bottom, but we're not previewing the article or the link that you're mentioning in your post. You could even put that in the comments. You don't really need to for visibility. You just need to not have the preview come up. So maybe we'll just do a little short demo because this always confuses people. Let me see if I can go to LinkedIn. This is kind of funny because we're watching myself on LinkedIn, but we'll go to the homepage. And I will start just there's a link at the bottom, right? So I start a post, previewing, and then I put article or the link that you're mentioning here in your post. You could even put that in the comments. You don't really preview show up. I'm just going to exit out. You just need to not have. And now I'll hit post. You got to make sure you do that at the very end. Maybe we'll make sure you hit that X to get this always confuses people. let me preview out at the very end, and that will make it so that you don't have the preview of the post. We'll go to the homepage, and I will start just like any kind of this one. So Meredith, one of our coaches, she's great. She shared this post, which is fine. It cuts down the visibility of your brand. And instead of you're only posting 1 or 2 times a week on LinkedIn, you don't want it and to be about someone else's visibility. So it's okay to do that every once in a while, but you don't want all of your posts to be that way. And then Marvin Smith, one of our great recruiters that we follow, you can see where he's posted this link. We'll go to the homepage to an article. And I will again, that's fine when you want to promote this one article. Meredith, one of our coaches, she's great. She quoted in, etc. But if you're trying to build your brand, I would add out. And instead of highlighting it, just be the post. We want a little bit more content than this. And now we thought leadership got your point of view. So it's okay to do that every once in a while. Not having that preview show up so that people read your post and engage within your post. And if you're talking about an article from an industry insight, you always want to actually have something that you don't have to go read the article to respond to your post. It's the number one mistake that people make when they post an article like this is that they expect the post kind of doesn't do much unless I go read the article. I want to be able to interact with your post without having to go and read the article. Give me your article, give me enough that I can engage with you without going to read the article. That will improve your engagement, your visibility, it'll improve the visibility of all of your posts moving forward. So sharing industry insights is great. Make sure it shares your point of view. Don't over promote that article, just link to it and then X out that preview so that people see what you think about it. That's your thought leadership. It's not thought leadership to just share the article without any insights into it. So that's the 3 of the 3, 2, 1 in the Inc. story. The 2 is personal reflections. And I would actually encourage you to just put those with the industry insights. And then a personal story, that could be a separate post, or again, you could combine it with the industry insights if that's more comfortable for you if you're just getting started. So now you could have 2 posts a week, maybe 3. You could have a few that are reflections on these industry insights, and maybe one that is a personal story could still be influenced or inspired by those industry insights, but it's more personal, your leadership. And when I say personal, I don't mean like your daily life, unless that's part of what you want in your brand. I mean personal in terms of how that looks for you. So again, if we're talking leadership, tell me a story about a time that you led through a difficult thing, right? You're already preparing these stories for your interview, for your job search, for your networking, whatever. Put them in LinkedIn in that more accessible conversational tone. Doesn't need to be long. And you can use those same kinds of stories that you would be kind of using in a job interview, right? You don't want to tell them like that. It's got to have the story piece, and it's got to be LinkedIn friendly, short paragraphs, those types of things. But you don't have to completely come up with new stories. You can have something, okay, so here's an article. I remember a time that happened, and now I'm going to tell the story in a separate LinkedIn post, or maybe even in the similar LinkedIn post where I'm talking about that industry article 1 to 2 times a week. Engagement is going to be more important than posting. So some people will say you want to engage on 5 posts a day. You figure out the number that works for you, but that consistency is going to be important, engaging on a consistent basis. And liking is not engagement. It's got to be a comment. So this wasn't in my notes for today, but the comments that I usually recommend people say are at least 3 sentences. The first one is a kind of shout out to the author. Thank you for bringing up this topic. What an important topic. Great article. I loved where you said this, whatever it is. Short, not fake, right? Even if you don't like what the person was saying, you say, thanks for bringing up this topic, whatever. Then you add your thought leadership. This is where you're adding to it. You're putting in your story. You're putting in your point of view. You don't want to you don't want to be combative, and you don't want to step on toes. You don't want to market yourself. So it's just, hey, here's my thought on this. Or when I read the article, I thought about this. And then the third part, which isn't always there, but it's great when it is is either asking a question back to the author of the post so that you can encourage them to engage back on your comment, or tagging someone else who might be interested in coming into the conversation. That starts the actual networking piece of the engagement on LinkedIn. So the 3-part comment. So we've got the 3-2-1 rule, although I would just say a 2 industry topics and stories, and then the 3-part comment. So when you're doing that engagement on a platform where your industry is actually hanging out, that's how you build visibility. If you're doing it inconsistently, it'll be hard. If you're doing it in a place where your people aren't at, it'll be hard. Now, there's going to be some experimentation phase where you're going to do some of this. You're going to see, do I get engagement or not? Before you even do that, I would do the research phase. Where's my audience? Where are they active? Where are they having conversations? So that I can be engaging and have conversation, but also build visibility. Doesn't work if no one's there. And when you do that, then you can start to figure out how you want to connect. So the last fun thing from some of these articles doesn't necessarily kind of goes circle back to where we were before in terms of who are you and who needs to know you. One of the ideas that is in Inc. and Fast Company articles this past month were some of the ways that we can ask clients questions to dig in and figure out that really, who are you? So it's a coach tip. One of the questions that I thought was interesting was, what made you weird as a kid? So what made you weird as a kid? This I thought was particularly interesting because when I was young, I was always inviting everybody over, to have people come over to my house. It's just that, I don't know where that came from, but that's been something I was doing since I was little. And of course, now that I run a community, I run a membership, I have a in-person event every year, it's kind of funny to look back on it and say, okay, that thing that kind of made me weird as a kid was that I was always kind of coordinating and trying to get people together has really stuck with me through the end. But that's a great question to ask your clients, right? What made you weird as a kid? And if the word weird doesn't resonate, you could substitute it for something else. And then this is the question we started with, also in one of these articles. What are 3 things you want to be known for in 3 years? Powerful, deep, that is personal branding. It's not a tagline. It's not a buzzword. It's really understanding, who are you? What do you want to be known for? And who needs to know you? So we're doing a personal brand call tomorrow, an open call if you'd like to join us. Let me see if I can grab that link and put it up here. So that is our open call for the month, talking about personal branding, as well as our certified personal brand strategist program that's coming up in August. It is August. That's coming up at the end of August for our personal brand strategist, giving you the process to help clients figure this out. Who are you? And how do you want to be seen in the world? Who needs to know you? And how do you build that visibility? So if you're interested in that program, our certified personal branding strategist, and this page just kind of goes through a little bit of the program, what's included. But if you come to our live session tomorrow, you can ask those questions, and we'll probably do another pop-up Q&A for this program coming up soon. So this is based off of a program created by William Arruda in 2001. We've been running it under Career Thought Leaders since 2017. And the transformational nature of this program, I know everybody loves the word transformational, but the ways that people come out differently after this program is just such an inspiration. And knowing then that you can go and have that same input to your clients and transformation for them is just, it's amazing. So I will drop this link as well. And if you are interested in joining us tomorrow for the free call, we hope you'll join us. And otherwise, we will see you next Tuesday for our next Trend Tuesday Live. Thank you, everyone, and have a great week.